Brooklyn Independent Television.
We're excited to get with the Asphalt Orchestra. We're very excited to have your piece, which you've composed for us. I wanted to ask you a little bit about writing that piece, and obviously you're working on works for your group all the time, as well as film scores and all this other stuff. So, do you have just a rolling list of ideas?
People imagine composer sitting on piano and sunshine or sunrise or sunset or something.
Yeah, right.
But it's not. It's always among the people. So I start to do an idea. I have always at least 5 assistants around me because I don't have rock and roll band anymore with me. So I have 5 assistants,
Great.
which are very different people.
They're your band, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them are programmers, some of them are orchestrators, some of them are. My first assistant is Gypsy accordiονist from
Cool.
the bar. Yes.
Wow, great.
And he's always developing first my idea. So I started with one melody that is like, I can imagine that someone can marching and singing, so very simple,
Yeah.
very simple melody. And also some toast song that I imagine that it has to be like toast. And then also we put some fast notes to make little problems to the musicians because to have fun, not everything to go with. And then I called my orchestra, my wedding and funeral band to try to rehearse how it goes. And then I saw that they like to play this. That's it. I send you, and I'm happy that you like it.
To ask you about though is about coming from a rock and roll tradition and doing that stuff when you were from when you were 16 and then joining a band and becoming very well respected in that world. When did you kind of step back from the rock and roll world and maybe more closely examine your own culture?
So in my music it's not dressed just anymore in any weird dress. It's just put in instrumentarium, which is natural for this music. It's just changing of dress, but music as all sources are the same, and actually all the method of making music is the same.
Yeah, yeah. And when you think about composing, you have something in your head, obviously. Are you concerned about the traditions that you're working with at all?
Well, I think that they say scientifically, music is first human language. Right. This is what science says. Before we had language to speak, before we had religion or politics, the music was the first way how human beings were communicating with scary things. So this is one good thing, yeah, right. Because you can communicate, really. This is the only universal language that we have as a human being. It's possible to write on foreign language, but composers, they are always local. You cannot cheat this because it's too deep place from where the music goes out. Mm-hmm. So since always composers were local, from Gershwin to Stravinsky, from Lennon-McCartney, I don't know, they are always, but just someone has a luck that his tradition is worldwide. It's nice to know that I can have audience and I sell records all around the world. This is nice to see. It's not only for my ego, but also it's say nice things about the world. If you are naive, you will think that only the things that are on MTV exist as a music. It's not true. I sell more than 5 million records in the last 7-8 years all around the world, and I was never on TV. Right. Which means that there is all parallel world.
It's a hard lesson to learn, especially in this country, because you grow up and you see like the Grammys, or you grow up and you see these bands on MTV in the 80s. This is like when I was growing up, basically, and you get the idea that this is what success is. This is what music is. This is, if you're a successful musician, you're going to be there playing Madison Square Garden. You're going to be playing these huge things and selling all this stuff. And then at some point, I realized, sometime after I was in college, I said, "Wow, I'm never going to be that. That's a business world thing. That has nothing to do with who I am." And that was an interesting point for me to realize, this thing that we as Americans are kind of taught to expect, or to say, okay, a successful musician is this, that actually you can be successful, but doing creating your own. I think the idea of local music is changing, though, so fast. I mean, with the amount of music that I was talking to you before about the number of bands in New York who are really going after the Serbian tradition.
Maybe it's the first time in history that we can witnessing that small musical cultures influence that much the big, which is also nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. But I wonder. I realize with my music, I go other places, and sometimes I realize that the music I write is actually fairly aggressive. It's actually fairly, it's not really easy or relaxed music. And you say, why is that? Just because I'm spending all my time in New York, and I'm running around, and I'm catching a flight, and I'm like, ah!
It goes out from deepest place you have.
That's right. So I play jazz a lot of the time, but you would never catch me in the famous New York jazz clubs because they wouldn't want me. The stuff that I do is a little bit too weird, more aggressive and rock and roll influence, and it's not quite right for a lot of the stuff that's called jazz here. And a lot of times I will get that, well, it's not really jazz. I don't know what it is that you do, but do you ever see that kind of thing when you're talking to more traditionalists, maybe?
Yeah, but I'm not playing traditional stuff. I'm trying to stealing from tradition and left something in tradition to be stolen. Tradition of brass bands in Balkan is tradition on all this territory which was under the Turks, which is Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, Albania, Bosnia, Serbia, this part. Turks, they have really scary military music with big drums and this zurna, very loud, scary music. So the militaries, they want to have military music somehow, but they didn't have schools, music schools or academies. So the only chance to have music was to buy trumpets from the Germans and give to the gypsies, because gypsies, they could learn any instrument in one afternoon how to play. So this is how the gypsies starts to play military music. But I think it was never really real military music. It was always between dancing and marching. The idea of brass band, it's always like madness and joy.
Yeah.
Brooklyn Independent Television on the BCAT TV network.